And Michael, you are a qualified auctioneer. Can you just elaborate on the process, please?
Yeah, purchasing an auction, basically, the contract does have, as we stated before, particulars of sale that you need to adhere to, but a lot of people also don't understand that it is unconditional. So whatever conditions are in that contract is what need to be relied upon. For example, it's not subject to finance. It's not subject to cooling off. So they can't decide that they want to think about it or change their mind or chase up their finance once they've purchased the property.
So on the subject of subject to finance, what can we say?
Well, I think it's obvious that people should know how much they can afford and whether they can in fact obtain a loan for the amount that they want to spend. So you can go along to a financial institution or a broker and obtain pre-approval. That's not the final thing because it'll always be subject to evaluation of the property that you're interested in, but it's a pretty important aspect of the conveyancing process.
And that's important to note as well, because it is, even if you have your pre-approval, it's conditional upon evaluation of that property, as Jane mentioned. So you need to allow the banks a week or 2 weeks, more likely 2 or 3 weeks, to get their valuation, because banks are overworked and sometimes slow.
So subject to finance gives you a way out if the finance is not passed.
Yes.
And if you're asking subject to finance, what's the experience, your experience, Michael, the time period that most people put in the contract?
More often than not, it depends on how much pre-work they've done. If someone's pre-qualified and it's only about the property, then you could generally get something within that 7 to 14 days. The most important thing is their qualification. If they've never spoken to anybody, you want to give them time to actually make sure they can get the money. And if they're not sure that they can get the money, then they should only be buying a property subject to finance rather than an unconditional sale.
If within the subject to finance period, the client decides, there's a likely chance that the finance will be approved, but the client decides on a different property, what can we do?
Well, the subject to finance provisions in the standard contract provides they've got to use their best endeavours to obtain the finance. That means it's not a changing of mind. It is the finance has to be disapproved. A vendor, the seller, has a right to request a formal letter from the bank saying that they've been rejected.
Does that normally happen in the practical or real life?
In the real estate practice, if someone says, I can't get the finance, then we will be asking who told them that, and we want a formal letterhead.
So, to summarise, it cannot be relied upon to get out of a purchase which you've just changed your mind on. I think that's the summary, isn't it?
It is the summary.
Let's get back to the summary. I think we are coming closer to the end. Any final words, Michael?
Find the right property, but then also make sure you understand the process.
Do your due diligence. Make sure the property is right for you, not just in terms of it's the right property, but it's the right zone you can live in it. Sometimes we find people buy properties and it's not zoned properly. And if it's not zoned properly, council can come in and force you to vacate.
Jan?
I think people must be aware that it's caveat emptor, which means buyer beware. So you buy the property in the condition that it is. So if it's not an auction, it's a very good idea to inspect it very carefully. Check that the stove's operating, that the dishwasher's operating, that the heating's operating, and be aware of the condition of the property at that time. It may be, if it is a private sale, that you can actually negotiate for the vendor to fix anything that may or may not. But it is important to be aware of that principle of caveat emptor.
And don't be scared to ask the agent. If you want time, take the time. If you want to inspect it twice, inspect it twice. And be very careful about the paperwork.
For more useful information or to see our episodes, you can visit our website www.lawhelpaustralia.org or our YouTube channels. Thank you.